In the next session, you will learn from our Terabyte partner as well, Cohesity on the redefinement of data management and ransomware protection to boost digital financial resiliency. Powering this session is Sheena Chin, the Managing Director of Cohesity ASEAN. With more than 20 years in enterprise technology, with more than 20 years of experience in enterprise technology ecosystems, Sheena has extensive experience in developing deep customer engagements with large global customers and securing strategic wins in hyper-competitive markets. Joining Sheena is Satish Murthy, who is the Director of Systems Engineering for Cohesity ASEAN and India. Satish's current focus is to help customers transform by harnessing the power of data. So guys, stay tuned, stay on your toes. Sheena and Satish will be up shortly. See you guys.
Enterprise data. It's your most valuable resource, but managing your data is challenging and complex, and it's not generating enough strategic value. Your data is siloed, and it's fragmented both within those silos as well as across data centers, remote offices, and clouds. Multiple point solutions to manage your data further compound the fragmentation problem. You also maintain multiple copies of the same data, which is inefficient and expensive. And your data is dark. It's almost impossible to see what you have and where it's stored. To extract any value, you have to move volumes of data across silos and locations. All these challenges create a significant problem for the enterprise. We call this mass data fragmentation. At Cohesity, we take a revolutionary approach to bringing value to your data. We looked at how hyperscalers like Google answered this challenge in the consumer space. They consolidated consumer data onto a web-scale file system and added a layer of manageability to make it appear as a single platform. Then they exposed the value of that data through apps and services. At Cohesity, we are doing the same for enterprise data. We start by consolidating infrastructure with a software-defined web-scale platform. And just like Google first focused on building a great search engine, we focused on creating a great backup solution across clouds and data centers. Then we eliminated additional silos by bringing together your archive, file shares, dev test, and analytics. We provide one global management console so you can search and manage all your data from a single interface, no matter where it lives. Next, you can run apps and services to run your business-critical needs, such as ransomware protection, compliance checks, analytics, e-discovery, and much more. All in a single software solution that spans your data centers and multi-cloud environments. Cohesity, data management redefined.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sheena from Cohesity. I'm the Managing Director for ASEAN. And I'm here with my colleague Satish, who's my counterpart. He's the Head of System Engineering for ASEAN. So thanks for having us here today. And I really want to wish everyone herein safe and well. We are in the middle of a pandemic, right? So the number one key focus that I sincerely wish for everyone is to stay healthy and be immutable. So therefore, I really hope everybody has made plan to complete the vaccination soon, right? So similarly, to successfully complement digital financing, powering a cashless economy, we need to ensure that we are able to keep our data immutable and accessible. So especially now that most of us are working from home and we are therefore digitally connected. That also means we are operating in the cyber world, and therefore we are subject to cyber threats. So apart from being protected from cyber attacks, organizations today are also in need to ensure that their data platform is able to scale. And this is to help them protect the huge data that is perpetually growing all the time. And at the same time, to give you back the economies of scale in terms of IT budget. Because gone are the days that we have the luxury of big IT budget to spend. So every dollar that you invest in your IT technology. It has to serve more data management rather than just a single purpose. However, the reality is this, right? While many organizations are doing well in implementing great technologies to meet demands, there is a side effect though. That is the creation of data sprawl, complexity, multiple silos, which often requires huge amount of manpower or even other resources just to maintain it. And data created is also stored in many locations, and it gets very fragmented. Hello, everyone. We are back. My apologies for the glitch. Things happen, disruption happen, right? So all the more we need to make data very, very resilient to disruptions like that so that our business can go on. So where was I? I was talking about, many organizations are dealing with, struggling with legacy systems, and yet trying to keep up with, having the nimble ability to get access to data and to stay very protected. Right. So I'm just naming an example on how some of this legacy can be weighing everybody down, right? So for example, if you look at a very legacy backup technology, I just named this simple example of performing a restoration. Many a times, the restoration process is painful, lengthy, and often not even successful. So essentially, we are putting ourselves at risk, and let alone, running in a very optimized mode. So if you are really planning to modernize and redefine data management, please kindly make sure, all the following 4 pointers that I'm going to highlight are to be seriously considered. The data platform that you want to look at should be able to help you scale. It should be able to take huge amount of data as it comes in. And it should be able to also be friendly to your wallet. It has to give you economies of scale so that whatever you're investing in is going to be future-proofing. That's just one. Second, it has to give you the portability, help you move from one site to another, from on-premise to the cloud, or even from cloud to cloud, or be able to come back. And thirdly, it has to give you the immunity, right? Just like us in the COVID-19 world today, we need to make sure data is immutable, not to be writable. And finally, in the event should disaster happen, should a ransomware were to hit our system, how do you make sure that you can confidently find it and be able to restore it instantaneously, right? Because of the competition of the demands, it can't wait, and therefore we need to be very fast to be able to locate and restore so that your business can go on. So Satish and I are in the practice of working with organizations to redefine data management. It is absolutely doable, even just by making some small steps and slowly expanding to as many purposes, as many use cases as you want. So make data work for infinite purposes. Make it future-proof and make sure you get the essential protection and immunity. So which you will be hearing from Satish in a while. So I hope you will find what we're going to share today useful, especially to help drive the ability to be nimble, confident, and safe in this digital economy. So thanks for allowing me to kick this off and sharing my perspective. I'm going to hand this session next to my colleague Satish to take you through what we mean by modernizing data management. Over to you, Satish.
Thank you, Sheena. Hi, good afternoon. This is Satish here from Systems Engineering of Cohesity. And I'm going to walk you through redefining intelligent data management in the multi-cloud era. Right, I'm sure you had a great day today hearing through different content. And I'll be walking through this particular solution in terms of what would be the next generation thought process in terms of managing data and also in terms of maintaining security for our solution. Now let's look at one quick feel of the data explosion that we have today. Now just imagine the amount of data that we have been creating. Massive, right? Just think about it. The amount of data that you generated from the morning to this time today, which is now about 3 p.m., how much data did we create? Just think about it. And you may be surprised because here is the clue. Every day, per second, per day, per year, the number of tweets that goes on is 6,000 tweets per second, 500 million per day, and 200 billions of tweets per year. That includes photos, that includes videos, that includes the messaging people do. Now, the number of videos that get uploaded is 720,000 hours of video content uploaded daily. Staggering, isn't it? If you look at the data generated every second, which is why I asked you, since the morning, how much of data did we generate? Is about 1.7 megabytes every second. You may be wondering, where is it coming? It may be from your phone, it may be from the streets, the cameras, everything that we touch, the digital devices that we touch, the sensors that generate. These are incredible amount of data that is exploding. Think about the IoTs, the video generated, the edge devices, anything that a CCTV records, anything that we pass through, every one of them is having a phenomenal growth of data. And you look at even more, the future holds even increase in the explosion of data. Now, if you relate that, these are significant in external world, that also implies within an organization in the data center, you are having this staggering growth. Now that gives us a number like in 2021, we are looking at a growth from 50 exabytes to grow to 175 zettabytes, right? 50 zettabytes right today to about 175 zettabytes in next 3 years or 4 years in time. Now that is incredible. If you look at from the data storage perspective, this is the current status. 50 zettabytes with a linear curve of increase in data marked by global data sphere from IDC. They clearly state this is already staggering in terms of zettabytes of data growth. Now, even more, in the next 3 to 4 years, we would outpace it 3 to 4 times to reach 175 zettabytes of data. That is just staggering, right? Unbelievable amount of data. Now, think about this way in a different perspective. If I pack them into a hard disk, I need 2.8 billion hard disk or hard drives today, right? To pack about 50 zettabytes. If I have to pack them in containers in a ship, I need 31,000 containers, we can imagine. If I have to power it up, all up, if you look at from a perspective of the data, we need 16,000 megawatt of power. This is the incredible amount of data that people are churning out as of today. When you do the carbon emission, 16 gigaton. Now that is as of just of today. Now you take that and extrapolate to the next 4 years, you end up with 9.7 billion hard disks. Container ships worth of 110,000, 58,000 megawatts. You could power up a country with that, right? And carbon emissions, 58 gigatons. So those are how much of data explosion that is happening today in the environment. You, me, our team, everybody in our enterprise, in the customers we work with, every one of them is generating data. Everything is in a connected world, and more and more and more data gets generated. So, but if you look at a different perspective here, we have massive amount of data. Now you will hear a new phrase, the great data unusage. So you have truckload of data. We generate massive amount of that 175 zettabytes. Now, how much of them is really used? There's a significant portion, what we call it as dark data. Dark data, what a definition, it says the information assets organizations collect, process, and store during regular business activities, right? They generate them, but generally fail to use for other purpose. So it is just generated and do nothing with it. So of that 50 zettabytes, of that 175 zettabytes, I would say majority of them is dark data. Now, if we look at furthermore, Splunk research shows that 55% in an organization, in every single customer's data center, is dark. I have massive amount of data, but I don't know what kind of data is stored, who is using it, what are they doing, is it really valuable? I have no idea. Veritas did another study with Databerg, and they found out pretty close, 54% of the data and our average customer uses as dark data. IBM, who does a lot of sensor-based architectures, 90% of sensory data that is collected is just wasted because it's not used. Only 10% is used for programming and others, and in terms of manufacturing and all other processes, but 90% of them is dark data. Now, given that means there's a truckload of, what do I say, an unnecessary usage of resources. That gives me another slide to talk about need versus actual. Every person, which is me in this particular example, every day I would use a pair of socks in a simple way because I like to talk about simple things to share with you. And if I use it for 7 days, I need 7 pairs. And if I had a backup plan coming from a backup organization, I would have 2 additional socks pairs, which ends up with 9 pairs. That's all probably we need. But if you look at my draw, it shows that I have enormous amount of socks pair. It is a very simple example, but it clearly articulates that there is more than what we really use and what we really need. There's phenomenal amount of things that we consume in a data center that is not really related to business. Now that gives you another thought process here. You look at your data, which is your data, which is in your enterprise, where you aggregate all of them. You have disparate systems, massive amount of systems, structured data, Oracle, SAP, SQL, right? Microsoft applications, unstructured data, infrastructure applications, video surveillance, logs and sensors, analytical data. There's a truckload of all of these as your data. Now, centralizing all of these, if you think about it, makes you much easier to consume, isn't it? You connect all the rivers into one big reservoir and one big tap. Across the country, you can serve anybody. And exactly, if you have all these connected by one single reservoir, it is much easy to use and consume. Going on, if you look at from that perspective, what is the one which aggregates everybody in your data center? It is the backup. Backup aggregates all of this data into one central pool, which is typically unused, right? But backup is connected to Oracle, SQL, SAP, HANA, unstructured data, infrastructure, video surveillance, sensors, analytical, you name it. Everything is connected to backup because every organization, every team believes if I have a backup, I am safe. Need not be. That's another story for talking about. But backup is an aggregator. And that means traditionally, backup data, I take a backup, it is kept as an insurance. We don't use it again unless there is a disaster. Agree? Maybe use it for 6 months, and that is pretty much what you need to do. Anything beyond is just sitting there, consuming floor space, power, cooling, a truckload of other resources, and backup data has to be reused and rethought about how do we take advantage of this. Now, if I categorize them in any data center, 5 to 10% are the primary data, and that is the most expensive of your tier. And they run the most critical databases, which may be your business applications, your structured applications like Oracle, SQL. They are the business value generating. You ask me, they generate the revenue. It tells you how many chemicals are there. It tells you how do I mix each of them. And these are the factory related things or banking related things or the core banking or call data records. You can name that. They are the value generating purpose. Now, the next set of data, which is 20 to 30%, are the supporting data. By the way, it is important. It's still important to your business, which is sharing files, emails, where you communicate with your end customers, where you talk to different people, delegate things, and so on. Office files, they are all mixed data types, and they still consume in terms of cost, but they are still valuable. still meaningful to your business. But the remaining 70 to 80% is insurance data. They are just backup data used for nothing else other than insurance. If it fails, I will use it. If something happens, I will use it. Now, how often have you ever recovered? That's a different discussion for us to talk, right? Have you ever recovered 2015 data? Have you ever recovered 2010 data? Then why do you keep it? If you can't recover, you should throw it away. Now, that's a key thing to think about. 70 to 80% of the data is actually negative revenue to any company. They are copy data, replicas, backups, archive, and these are important. I'm not saying they're not important, but they don't add any value as it is. They have 80% of your data in your data center, and they don't add any revenue back to you. Now, that is where Cohesity wants to change this thought process. We, as a backup aggregator, is a software-defined architecture that is actually a backup software that runs on any hardware, any cloud, any virtual machines that can plug into all of these databases, unstructured data, video surveillance, virtual machine, logs and sensors, and be as an aggregator. And if you relate to that, it is like an IT infrastructure data lake. So once we aggregate all of these, now you can do really, really cool things, because you now collapse database, unstructured data, video surveillance, virtual machines, applications, logs and sensors into one repository. It is similar to how you use your smartphone, right? You have many things in one. That now gives you the advantage of doing cloning for your business, for data masking, test and development, gives you a new edge in your business. Think about recovery testing. If you really have a pre-production or impact testing, you could do that. Think about e-discovery, where you have GDPR compliance and litigation search and audit search and things like that. That is huge. Ransomware detection. This is another important aspect to think about with any organization, to look at anomaly detection. Do I have ransomware today? I don't know. How about we tell you that you have it or not? Swift recovery, rapid recovery, which gives us the ability to do that. These are some of the cool things. As aggregator of backup, we could do that. Moving on, it gives you even more advantages when you go to the cloud, where you can spin up the cloud services right away on the IT infrastructure data lake. Gives you that advantage to hook on to AWS or Azure or Google Cloud and connect to their applications to bring this aggregated data of your company across different various gamuts of applications that bring back value to you. Now, that is thinking outside the box, right? To think about, if I do the same thing for last 30 years, 40 years, I do the backup this way, I do this way, I just keep the data this way. Great. Your company will still be the same, because we have not started thinking outside the box. The clear definition to explore ideas that are creative and unusual, that are not limited and controlled by rules or tradition. It is not a heavy risk, but it is important to think about, how can I take advantage of the data? How can I protect my data? What value can we bring to the business? And that is taking the next step. Now, a couple of examples where I would share. One of them is Skylakes Medical. So Skylakes Medical is a very large hospital based in Oregon in the US. And they had a very unique case. They run on Cohesity, but very recently they had a massive impact during the Christmas period, that the entire data center was down due to ransomware. And ransomware, as you probably know, they come through emails, they sniff through a USB drive or something like that, and they ask you for money. They give you the Bitcoin wallet. If you don't transfer, goodbye to your data. So Skylakes Medical were directly impacted by that. And what did they say? They had, luckily, Cohesity's architecture for backup, which is not just insurance, but it was able to detect that they had ransomware impact and went on to recover data rapidly. Their 562 servers and 3,000 endpoints were all collapsed, and Cohesity helped them to recover back their data. They went on to public to talk about Cohesity and how it changed their life. That's one customer. The second one would be another customer, which is a financial banking institution based in New Zealand. With our collaboration with DataMask, we gave them a solution which will help them to take a clone of their database. This unmasked is actually a database table, and we could actually replace it with a masked database. That means it removes the sensitivity of the data and still presents with a data integrity structure for the database. So the application, the development team enjoy these services, and they love this architecture because now they don't have to pay premium to the highest storage technologies, which are way more expensive than what Cohesity could offer. Now, data responsibility is all of us, you, me, and everybody that we know. One, reduce your footprint, only keeping the data that is required, making sure that data is useful throughout its lifespan, minimizing the amount of data copies, because 3, 2, 1, 4, 5, 6, that is all nice to know. But if you start keeping at the rate of 1 petabyte, that means you would have 7 petabytes at the end of the day. How cool is definitely the storage vendors enjoy, but from a thinking perspective, how does it add value to your business, right? Leverage data reduction technologies like deduplication and compression, and we will be happy to have a conversation around it. Use the data that you keep. Data protection like test and development, DR, recovery, search and compliance, and cloud services can be leveraged. So now you know that Cohesity is one data aggregator or an infrastructure IT data lake, if you call it, right? Given that we are one platform that can aggregate all kinds of data inside, and it is one software-defined platform that can scale, data becomes so clunky that you can't move it away. 1 terabyte to copy from one location to another, how long does it take? 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour? How about 1 petabyte? Can you move that anymore? So if you are in any organization, if you have 100 terabyte, in 4 years, you are ending up with close to 500 terabyte. If you are at 1 petabyte, you are ending up with 5 petabyte. So how can you move anything to do any kind of analytics? Now that is what Cohesity loves to change, is we bring the applications to the data itself. We could bring these compute platforms like antivirus, endpoint protection, data masking, search, AWS Glue, AWS warehousing, all into the Cohesity platform. So you can embrace very similar to your smartphones, where you drag and drop WhatsApp, you drag and drop your Google Map, your so many other applications that make sense in your personal life. Similarly, you can drag and drop applications inside your data center, because Cohesity being the aggregator of data, you can double click and enjoy different data value, because data is the new oil and we keep repeating it, provided we know how to use it. And that is where Cohesity will help you to leverage, to take advantage of the data that you keep storing. Now let's look into ransomware in particular. Ransomware comes into any enterprise through an email or something like that. And most application servers are unaware because they don't know if it is ransomware. The security tools are good enough, but they don't stop an email from coming in. Now it comes in, and this is where the challenge is. Cohesity helps you in 3 important ways. 1, prevention. We are worm-capable system that is immutable. We can help you detect ransomware patterns on the backup images. Now, using machine learning, using AI to let you know that you had ransomware yesterday or 2 days ago, so that you know you can take a right action. And thirdly, having instant mass recovery, allowing you to recover data rapidly. And that is very, very critical, because ransomware can bring down any business to its knees. So how fast can you recover is directly proportional to your business success. And that means using AI, we can actually look at detection, the rate of change of data, the entropy of data, the file modifications, and so on, and let you know that there is a ransomware. And more often or not, we will catch a ransomware very, very highly chance in terms of probability. In terms of security framework, Cohesity is built on a 5-layer architecture. In terms of preparation, we are secure by design and immutable file system. We control and restrict with role-based access control and no service backdoor. We comply to most of the worldwide industry security framework like FIP certifications, SEC 17A4, or data log compliance, PCI compliance, CEC compliance, and so on. CoAsset is another compliance. So it's important to understand that Cohesity technology, despite being the infrastructure data lake, we help you with compliance. And more than that is the last two tip of the pinnacle is detection of ransomware, very uniquely placed, where we can find, because we are the backup aggregator, using our technology of machine learning, we can let you know that based on the last 6 months, last 2 weeks, you are infected by ransomware. So you exactly know which copy is good, which copy is bad. And you actually pick the right copy and do an instant mass recovery so that you can go back in time. At rapid scale, at massive set of data, it is very, very important to understand this framework. Now, in order to summarize, Cohesity is a data management platform. We run on the cloud, we run on premises, we can run on a virtual infrastructure, and we provide different services. One of them is data backup or data protection. We provide file services, object services, dev and test, and cloud that changes the enterprise architecture to modernize it, to transform to 2021 and beyond is where you think about, right? And it's truly software defined because you are not ransom to a particular hardware. You know what happens? A hardware is tied to a software, and then you're locked onto it forever because you have to do a forklift and migration and so many complexities. We are not in 2001. We are in 2021. So things have to change. We have a simple management console, very similar to the google.com, where you can manage multiple sites in one. You can manage cloud sites, you can manage physical sites, remote sites. If you're any industry, you can collapse all these data and do one single search. Search for a file, search for a database instance, and recover at any point in time. And on top, you have applications. You can build applications. Your partners can build applications. We bring our own applications and third-party applications like your App Store, like your Android Play Store. You can double-click and bring IT applications to life in your data center. You can create your own app. You can search for a credit card numbers inside the massive aggregated data. You have 2 petabytes of data today. Can you search for credit card numbers? Can you search for password numbers? It's almost impossible. People say this is like a hashtag and I'm searching for a pin. Very similar. And that's where Cohesity's architecture helps you to do that. And that is game-changing to business. A lot of customers has transformed, and in the process of transforming, be it Malaysia, be it across ASEAN, any country today, Cohesity is helping customers transform with our partner solutions, and we'll be happy to listen to you again over the forum. Thank you very much.
Hi guys, welcome back. So thank you everyone for sending in your questions. So we're going to have a Q&A session with Satish and Sheena right now. So let me read just a few of these questions out loud, and then I will give Satish and Sheena the opportunity to answer this question. So our first question is from Tan. And the question is, can backup data be compromised by ransomware? Whichever of you guys can answer.
Okay, I'll take that question, Satish here. So can the backup data be compromised? Great question, by the way. And that is one of the key reasons why you need Cohesity, right? Cohesity is an immutable file system. So that means we never do an overwrite. So you have a data block coming in, we actually write to the adjacent block. So when a ransomware comes in, it actually writes into an adjacent block. It will never compromise your original data. So that means your data is safe. Secondly, your solution, which you built with Cohesity, also helps you to detect ransomware and also give you the ability to recover rapidly. So in a nutshell, you're very secure, though this is your last level of defense, because there are other security tools that are still needed for ransomware detection and prevention. But this is your last great wall, if you would call it, for your data. And this is important to be secure, and Cohesity will do that.
All right. Thank you so much, Satish. I hope that answered your questions back at home. And also, Satish, do you have a YouTube account? Because I think you would do really good. I think you would do amazing, like with a YouTube account explaining all the things about data. You break it down really, really well.
We'll take
I
some
hope
tips from you.
Ah, can. I will support. I'll be the first person to follow you. Okay, so we have another question from George. Thank you, George. The question is, it's a really good question as well. If I want to modernize data protection, what is the best way to get started?
Great question. Sheena, you want to take that?
Sure. So since most people today are concerned about ransomware, so I think really going down to the core to make sure, we set up the data to be having the right immunity level is very, very critical. So targeting at the use case of making sure, we are able to detect ransomware or to stay very immutable so that, when we set up the data protection system as our insurance policy, we have to really ensure that it works. So I think it's high time to relook at what we have or what the organizations have today and ensure that every restore action is truly, truly effective, because we have really heard too much nightmare about organizations failing to restore and therefore subject to paying penalties to regulators. So that should be the most critical approach. And for those organizations who have tons or loads of data that are already stuck with very, very old systems, fear not. There are also approaches for us to discuss with you following this session today to let us understand what your plan is, and we can talk about how you can get into a newer environment. There are many approaches to get around that.
Okay, thank you, Sheena. So, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. From your answer, I guess the first step would be to organize data, and Cohesity has the consultancy capacity to look at each company and see what we can do with your data.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Sheena. Thank you for the answer, and thank you also for that question. We have two more questions to ask them, to ask Sheena and to ask Satish. So this next question is from Muhammad Haris Jaffrey. So this is a question regarding the machine learning aspect. So his question is machine learning already trained with the latest ransomware strains?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. If I had known about the next ransomware, I would have joined them. Right? So they are generally smart. So we'll never know what they're writing, right? Let's be very honest here. So how does Cohesity's technology work? Cohesity's technology works very similar to how you do parenting. So you live with your children and you exactly know how they eat, how they sleep, how they behave. And one fine day that they don't wake up on time or they don't eat properly, you as a parent would ask them, are you okay? So that is exactly what Cohesity does. Every day we monitor your backup. We know what is your full backup, what is your incremental backup, every day how your Oracle does backup. So it is an 8 terabyte database. We know exactly you will do 8 terabytes, plus or minus 10%. Incremental backup is probably 10 GB. So over a month, we use autoencoder and machine learning to learn about your environment. Oracle would be 100 GB every day, non-stop, maybe plus or minus, whatever it is, that's fine. But we exactly know the behavior of your environment. Very similar how that parent example I gave you. Now, one day, a ransomware comes into your Oracle server and encrypts everything. They give you a Bitcoin wallet, right? Next time I'll give you mine. But if you see that, and what happens is that Oracle database, once it is encrypted, our dedupe, our compression, our encryption will not work anymore. You know what I mean? Once it is being corrupted by them, we can't do the same backup. That day, our machine learning will tell us, hey, what was 10 GB until yesterday suddenly went to 1 terabyte. So suddenly my backup that was normally 10 GB has increased by 100 times, which is an unusual pattern.
So in other ways, when the data or your child misbehaves,
exactly.
And that's how you detect ransomware.
Absolutely. That is one of the ways that we detect. But of course, with a file and a folder, there'll be entropy of data, the read data, the write data, the ingestion of data. So there are many patterns that it reads. But pretty much in summary, yes, you're correct.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Wow, that's a first for me. So here we go. Okay, so we have
here as well. I think there are many ways to stay ahead of all these threats, right? I think which is why many financial institutions especially, they are never stopping in terms of implementing security controls or even educating their users so they can stay protected from ransomware or any other form of cyber threats. So Cohesity knows this, right? So apart from our machine learning capability, we also enable organizations to add security controls, applications, to be able to detect anomaly or understand how things are behaving strangely, and therefore, making your data more secure. From what Cohesity already have in our marketplace, should organization want to introduce additional applications such as vulnerability scanning tool or other data loss prevention tools, we enable the ability to add this application to the data platform. So enabling the easy addition of compute to data. So kind of like help to expedite the provisioning of security tools.
Thank you so much, Sheena, for the insight as well. I think oftentimes we do forget that these companies like Cohesity do not work in isolation. They're also taking into account, like we said, third-party plans, but also governmental regulations. Actually, we have a lot of questions about the ransomware. We have another one regarding ransomware from Leong Chi Wei. I'll open the floor for either one of you to answer it. The question is, does Cohesity provide 100% resiliency against emerging new ransomware strains?
I love that question again. Thank you very much. That is the same efficacy that you go outside in the market and put COVID vaccine. How guaranteed are you? Right?
I see.
Right? So let's be very clear and there is nothing called 100% in the world, right? Unless we score in mathematics. And the best belief...
You've gotten 100 on mathematics before. I don't think that's ever happened to me.
So if you look at it, let's be very clear here, right? This is based on machine learning. So that's why I said the more we help organization, the more smarter the ransomware team does also. They can program better and they make it sneakier inside, right? They sneak into an enterprise through email. I tell you, if I receive an email saying that Maldives, 4 days and 3 nights, I'm holiday deprived, what will I do? I'll do the same thing as you do. I'll double click it. That first thing, then that the email comes in with a ransomware inside. Hello ransomware. Goes into your production server. Hello ransomware. Goes into your backup. Hello ransomware. How are you going to stop that? Is there anything in this world called 100%? Let's be very clear, right? So you have the ransomware because the security tools tried, they can't find it. And the ransomware programmers are very, very smart because they can write silent ransomware. It has a time clock. So the first 60 days, it will look like a database. After that, it can change colors. Unfortunately, relating to pandemic, very similar. Once it comes in, then how are we going to protect? So Cohesity is not your security tool. I'm just telling you security at the last level of defense, which is your bank, which is your final repository of your data. How important it is. If everything gets blown away, you have that last $1 million in your bank.
Thank you so much, Satish. That's our last question. I think before we go, Sheena, do you have anything to add to the answer?
I'm good with the answer. Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. I would like to thank the both of you guys for being with us and also for answering all the questions from the audiences. We're so sorry. And to the audiences, thank you so much for asking us these questions. We do have a lot of other questions as well from the audiences. We're so sorry that we could not address all of them. Unfortunately, we are out of time. And we could also get back to you guys later with some of the answers to the question. What do you think, Satish and Sheena?
Absolutely.
And so just to let everyone know, Cohesity does have a team in Malaysia. So feel free to check us out. Just go to LinkedIn, send me or Satish a message. We will definitely come back to you in no time.
All right, thank you. And also soon, they will have a YouTube channel which Satish has promised to enact on Cohesity's behalf, and we all have to follow it.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much, guys.
Have fun, guys.
And I will also let all of you guys, I will also come back and then let you guys know what is coming next. So look out for that. See you. Say bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.